special episode, double episode of Note Night in America, the Note Close Show podcast. Scott Carson here, the Note Guy. Excited to be here with you tonight or today, whenever you're listening or watching this episode. I guarantee you're going to take some notes because what we're going to discuss in this episode is something that doesn't really get covered by a lot of folks in their trainings and different things. And it's something that you really need to know. Now, we dive into this in our 3-day workshop on a pretty regular basis, talk about it. I'll talk about lumping a lot of things into specific buckets because I don't get so detailed. Some people will take their ROI calculator and try to figure in every expense. And some expenses you'll pay these, some things you won't, some things will get lumped with other things. It depends how you're structured. So tonight's talk is all about the different types of fees associated with note investing. And like I said, I encourage you to ask questions. I encourage you to leave comments. I will gladly answer anything I can for you and help you along the way. So without further ado, let's dive into the content tonight. Whoops. As always, the different types of note fees associated with note investing. No matter how you listen to, if you're watching either on Note Night in America or the Note Close Show, thank you for helping to make us continue to have the top note podcast out there, along with the #1 YouTube channel as well. We do have our upcoming 3-day workshop in just a few days, March 22nd through 24th. You go to notebuyingfordummies.com. That should take you straight to the landing page for this. And if you use the code WEEKEND, all caps WEEKEND, when you check out, it'll knock that price in half. But we're really excited about the class. We'll definitely do a deep dive into today's episode on that workshop on probably Sunday. But anyway, most people think of 3-4 different types. There's actually 6 different types of fees when it comes to being a note investor. Now, some of these are going to seem like pretty obvious. Others, you won't maybe think about it. Some will be lumped into different things. I had to give a shout out to the guy on LinkedIn who posted an article about the 5 types. He said, well, what about the 6? And I realized I've not done an episode in forever on the types of fees. So he's the motivation for this episode. But literally, when it comes to fees, you've got to consider these as part of your due diligence or upfront costs when you figure it on the budget side of things. I don't figure these in my ROI calculator, although they do kind of, like I said, I go into figuring that I'm bidding enough to make sure and cover these. But this is one of the things that's why you don't pay par for a note, or why you don't pay full value for a non-performing note, because there are costs associated with everything you're doing, okay? There's due diligence fees, there's closing costs, there are servicing costs, there are brokerage fees, there are legal fees, and then lo and behold, there are marketing costs along the way, in the front end, back end, and continuing operation of your business. Now, some of these, like I said, will go in a little bit together. It can be kind of blurred and maybe a little bit of gray. But we went ahead and broke these out individually. And depending on how you're structured or how you do things, then you may separate these out or do other things with them. So just keep in mind, these 6 things are pretty unique to what we're talking about. Now, first and foremost, always the due diligence is the first thing you look at. And due diligence is not meant to be difficult. It's pretty easy to do due diligence. You don't have to jump on a plane and fly out as part of your due diligence. I just had a call with a guy out of California. He's like, well, if I'm buying something in Florida, I got to jump on a plane. I'm like, no. There's a tool called Google to help you out with that. But the first and most important thing when it comes to due diligence costs is helping you with understanding the valuation. What is that property worth? What is that note worth? And many times you're going to pay for a broker price opinion, a BPO. That's where a realtor goes out and drives by the property, pulls comps for you, or you have a local agent that you already know, work with, family member, that pulls a comparative market analysis for you. That's to give you a bit of an idea what the value of the property is worth. Obviously, you always want to have somebody be your eyes and ears on the property, somebody to drive by, making sure it is actually what the numbers say. I don't always trust an automated valuation model, an AVM. I will do that more so on the property after I buy the asset, 6 months down the road. But on the front end side, I want to make sure my property is there and it is what it is. There are some software services some people will use for comps, like NAR, RPR, or they'll use other things like PropStream to get a rough idea on the online value. Zillow, Trulia, you've heard of those. I don't pay for those, but I will always pay for a BPO. Of course, there's another thing you need to look at is the collateral, the loan file. And you need, when you're starting off, you probably want to pay a service to evaluate the collateral of you, making sure that the loan file is 100% complete. Or if there are some holes in the collateral file, can those holes be filled? Can there be missing documents recreated or re-signed? making sure that the title is all there, title review as far as the assignments, making sure and checking taxes. I throw these on the front end side. Title is not going to be a closing cost because you're going to do it on the front end side before you get to closing. Okay. And that's a due diligence cost. Checking how much in taxes are owed. There are third-party services that will help you do that if you want to do that versus doing yourself. I throw in checking rent rates. If you end up having to take the property back, and that's one of your strategies as a note investor, what's the value of the rental market in that area? Is it a lot? Is it rough? You need to know something as part of your due diligence. But that's the first thing on the front end side. Costs associated with that, a BPO, $100, a full appraisal, $400. You're not going to pay for a full appraisal. Collateral review maybe 100, 150. Title review maybe $100. Your taxes and checking your rent rates, that'll vary. If you're going to be using a third party, they may just charge you per file for that. Like if you use Rentometer, it may be $50 to $100 a month or something like that. Okay. Number two is your closing costs. Okay. Now, closing costs are a little bit different. If you've got back taxes that need to be paid, I throw that in there as part of your closing costs. Okay. Insurance costs. If you're going to pay for your insurance up front through forced place insurance or making sure that it's covered so you're protected, I would throw in insurance costs in there as well. Obviously, attorney fees to prepare the documents, the loan docs, that kind of stuff. You got to remember, in a note deal, you're not closing traditionally at a title company, but you still have closing costs. Okay. You're not paying for title insurance. By attorney fees, maybe you're having to pay an attorney to prepare your documents and assignments. That may happen. There are recording costs, the cost to get the assignment or assignments recorded. Those are things that you've got to send out or hire a third party to do that. There are wire transfer fees. You got to pay money coming in and then money going out. You might even throw an escrow account. You got to pay for an attorney, put an escrow account together. That might be a couple $100 as well for you. All right. You might have you might be charging a fee on the front end side to manage the stuff. There's different things that go in there. You might even throw commissions in there as a closing cost if somebody's paying for that. That leads us down the road to more of the brokerage fees, but we'll get to that later on. Servicing costs are an important thing to keep in mind. This is what everybody's familiar with. They don't realize it's a little bit different. For performing note, servicing costs would be a whole lot less, maybe $25 a month. If somebody's paying on time, boom, boom, boom. You have your third-party servicing company, and no, you should not be self-servicing notes. Get a third party to do it. It's $15 to $25 a month for them to basically collect the payments and go from there and send out statements, okay? Non-performing notes, you're going to be paying a little bit more, $90, $95 for them to do more of the aggressive borrower outreach. And that's going to lead to different fees associated with that. Now, I throw in forced place insurance if you don't have to get insurance on the property yourself in this, because oftentimes you can have the servicing company put this at the note or the property under their blanket policy, and then you're basically paying the forced place cost through your servicing monthly, or the borrower's paying it through this third party, or they're paying it separately and stuff like that. Okay. I just throw in miscellaneous servicing costs, a la carte fees, because if your servicer is negotiating a deed in lieu, there's going to be a cost for that. If they're doing a loan mod, there's going to be a cost for that. They're going to get paid on these a la carte fees to have some sort of resolution most of the time. Okay. And it's all based on success, or kind of what kind of they work out. If they work out a payment plan or deed in lieu or modification, there are different things they work out they get paid to do. That's part of what motivates them to keep going. Now, you can hire a special servicing company to come and be much more aggressive in the first 90 days most of the time. And that may be a short contract, maybe 90 days, maybe $500 a month for the first 90 days. And they also will get probably paid a la carte fees most of the time. One thing people don't realize is once you get the loan file to you, you probably need to go recopy it. This is one of the most expensive aspects that people forget about, is copying the loan file so it's up to date with the new assignments and the other documents that are missing, and then saving that somewhere for you. Storage costs, I would throw this storing the collateral files as a servicing cost, because many people will pay their servicer to hold the collateral files, or you'll have it through a third-party vendor. What you also have to keep in mind in servicing costs is many servicers will have either a minimum amount of loans you have under management with them, and like it might be 100 loans or greater, or it may be a minimum servicing cost. Like we bought two notes from one company a couple years ago, and their servicer had a $5,000 minimum servicing cost. So even though we only had two loans that they were barely servicing, they were going to charge $5,000 per month. I'm like, yeah, no, we'll transfer it to a much cheaper servicer for these 2 notes. And that's what we did. So you got to keep that in mind. Some servicers are going to be more expensive. In this small note investor space, Essence Servicing will take on newer investors, but they're also one of the most expensive when it comes to a la cartes and workout costs. So keep that in mind. All right. Not all servicers are created equal. All of them are decent in some sort of fashion, but they all suck. And the idea is to find something that you can live with. All right. Remember, servicers work for you. You don't work for your servicers. Okay. Now, brokerage fees are a cost of doing business. And it's, well, you have to keep in mind brokerage fees. It's not like you're paying a realtor, 3% on the buying side, 3% on the sell side. Brokerage fees when it comes to note investing is dealing mostly with note brokers or wholesalers. Okay. Note brokers, like I deal with a couple guys on Wall Street, but they send me tapes, lists of notes all the time. And I'm going to usually going to give them a percentage of the funding amount. It might be a 1% or 1.5% of the funding amount. In some cases, there are people that will charge a flat fee, like it's either going to be 1% or $500 at a minimum per asset. There are some platforms out there that you can move and sell notes through, but they have a flat platform fee. They charge both sides of the buyer. And that's fine as long as you're happy with it. Okay. There are wholesale fees. Same thing if you have an individual wholesaler that brings you a note or tape. There's the same thing. You're in charge like a flat fee, $500 to $1,000 per note, a percentage of the funding amount. Or me, if I'm wholesaling a note, I'll take a look at what that deal will hold and making sure that I'll charge more. I won't usually charge a 1% on a non-performing note. It may be $5,000, it may be $100,000. I mean, we've had wholesale fees go up to that $100,000 part before because it was such a deep discount on such a good deal. So I don't look at wholesale fees as a negative. If it's a good deal that I wouldn't have gotten any other way, hey, it's a bonus. But what I will not do is if a wholesaler brings me a tape that I already am direct to the seller on, then I'm already gotten the tape, I'm not going to pay them an additional fee as well. Now, most of the time, brokers, wholesalers are going to want you to sign some sort of fee agreement for a period of time. And I'm glad to sign that fee agreement and pay them for up to 2 to 3 years off that, as long as I'm not already connected to that asset manager. Something to keep in mind. It's a cost of doing business, but hey, and here's the thing: pay your brokers. The last thing you want to do is not pay for brokers and get blacklisted. Okay. Legal fees is very common. People think about legal fees as basically just foreclosure. There are other legal fees. Obviously, if you need to hire an attorney to foreclose, you've got to hire an attorney in every state, and that can vary from like $1,000 here in Texas up to like $10,000 just to do the foreclose. There may be a cost of doing business, cash for keys. I thought this is a legal fee to do a deed in lieu of foreclosure. I'm going to give somebody $5,000 or $10,000 or $500 to walk away. We'll usually have that funded with our attorney and have them take care of that. A cash for consent. If there's a second lien on the property, we can't do a deed in lieu, so we do a cash for consent. Same thing is basically the borrower saying, yes, I'm signing over the property, and it helps us expedite foreclosing at the second. Ongoing legal costs. If you're buying notes in a longer foreclosure state and that borrower is dragging that foreclosure out, guess what? It's going to be costly. We've had legal fees up to $50,000 on assets that took 2 years, 3 years to foreclose because the borrower kept doing different things to drag it out. That got expensive, but we knew that on the front end that the profit margin was there. If you need to hire a bankruptcy attorney to represent you, if the borrower's filed bankruptcy, that's going to be separate fees as well. And I also will kind of throw this in here too. There can also be some servicing costs along the way with your legal fees. If your attorney's handling the servicing side, they may charge some of that stuff in there as well. Or you may be running your servicing fees through the servicer, or your legal fees through your servicer, because they're the ones that hold on the attorney. So you may see your legal fees be included in your servicing statement. Okay. There's also one thing to keep in mind, depending on what state you're buying in, some states will require you to be separately licensed. So I throw that in as a legal fee to get a license, or to pay, like in Illinois, if you want to be a debt collector, you've got to pay like $750 to the state of Illinois for a 2-year license. So I throw that as a legal fee in there as well. Okay. Now, this is the last fee that most people forget about, and it's the fact of doing ongoing business. If you're going to be a note investor on a regular basis, you're going to have some marketing costs. But here's the thing. Nobody really teaches the marketing side of the business. And it's one of the most valuable things you need to do to get the word out, to find deals, find funding, and move your assets on a regular basis. I'm not just talking posting to LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm talking the marketing fees include more things like that. If you're going to treat this like a business, and here's the thing, note investors that are successful do treat this like a business. And there's costs of doing business. You're going to have website costs. You're going to have landing page costs. You're going to have email costs to have a good CRM, not MailChimp or Google. I'm talking like maybe Keep or Constant Contact or other things like that as well. Out there's a monthly cost for having a CRM based on your contacts and what you send out. You may hire a virtual assistant to help you with your marketing. Maybe they're the ones going out and contacting asset managers or brokers to find deals for you, or they're doing the due diligence aspect of it, or they're posting the deals for you. I throw in attending different conferences, events across the country, networking as a part of your marketing fees. You're marketing yourself, marketing your business. And so you got to keep that in mind with those costs are associated. Some events are cheap, $20 once a month, or it can be like $1,500 to $2,000 plus airfare fees. Okay. Marketing software. By marketing software, I mean a variety of different things you're going to be paying for on a monthly basis. Like what we do, we use Canva on a monthly basis. We're using a text messaging blast service, easy texting. That goes through our CRM, but we also have another service that we use. And then postcards. If you're doing any type of direct mail campaigns to IRA investors, letters, postcards, doing any type of video or audio hosting like a podcast or YouTube channel or anything like that. Buffer.com for your social media marketing, or maybe a third-party service like that to post stuff on a regular basis. There are marketing fees, and it will vary across the board depending on where you're at. Here's the big thing. People often ask me, how much money on the front end do I need to have? You can do this really cheap, all right? And when you start off, you're going to do things on a very bootstrap budget, and that's A-okay. When I started, I didn't have a website or a landing page. I used my LinkedIn profile initially as my landing page. Then I got a cheap one page. And then I paid for a professional aspect of things. I didn't go to a lot of conferences. I would go out and networking a lot though, but I would start adding little things to your aspect of things. So you can start off very cheap, maybe $100, $200 a month with a cell phone and internet. That's great. But at some point, if you want to grow, you need to start having a website, having a professional domain, domain hosting, website hosting fees, those kind of things, dedicated phone line for you. Those kind of things are important for you to get the word out we're doing. So it all depends on what you're going through. If you're happy and you've got money on the side, and you don't want to market, that's fine. You're just going to have a harder time finding deals and getting your assets moved by not building relationships. And that's one of the biggest costs out there. Questions, comments, concerns. Let's do a quick recap here on the different types of costs again. There's 6 different costs or fee types. Once again, let me go back here. There we go. 6 different types of fees. Once again, those fees include due diligence costs on the upfront side, closing costs, closing on the deal, servicing costs for maintaining the loan, working through the performing and non-performing, brokerage fees and paying people or brokers to send you deals and stuff like that, legal fees to foreclose, bankruptcy, licenses costs, things of that association. I throw in legal fees in there like cash for keys, deed and liens and stuff like that. That could also be considered kind of servicing costs, but I wanted to separate the two because it's more on the legal side of aspect to pay that. And then of course your different marketing fees, which can vary from very small to vary a lot. Here's the thing with your marketing fees, don't get so bogged down. I got to have every new cool tool. Some tools it's great to have, and others it may be just ego, and you may not need to do that. So one of the things that we do on a regular basis in marketing is constantly evaluate what are we paying for each month? Are we using it or not using it? If we're using it and it's producing, great. If we're paying for something that's not producing, cancel it and move on and get something else out there. So hopefully that was valuable for you guys. Once again, we do have our next upcoming workshop, March 22nd to the 24th. NoteBuyingForDummies.com. Costs normally $9.97. If you use the discount code weekend, you'll get it at half price. You get a ticket for your spouse or business partner for basically just under $500. You get the replays of the 3-day workshop. When you get signed up, you'll get the replays of the previous class, a 200-page manual, 4 weeks of ongoing coaching calls that follow the class as well with yours truly on Wednesday or Thursday night. So that's NoteBuyingForDummies.com. Get signed up, guys. If you really want to dive in the note investing world, then hey, take it from the guy that's taught more successful investors out there who've closed on thousands of deals and closed on thousands of deals myself. Who continue to buy notes on a regular basis. So go out, take some action, buddy, and we'll see you at the top. Bye.